I don't know. Okay. Uh, My Hero Academia, chapter 306. Well, that went a few different directions that I didn't see coming. So first off, the title of the chapter, the final act begins. Other variations have been the beginning of the end. So this is the last arc of My Hero Academia, I guess. I mean, I would assume if you're going to title your chapter The Final Act Begins, I'm going to assume it's the final act, right? So, yeah, I didn't see that coming. I mean, granted, this is going to be a very, very long arc. This is going to be a mammoth of an arc. Pretty much the entire paranormal war was all of 2020. Like, that, I think that kicked off, like, right at the beginning of the year, and the wrap-up chapters, like the post-war arc of My Hero Academia, has basically just been for all of 2021 so far. So yeah, we had a whole year there. So this is gonna be a big arc. This might be like a saga divided into little mini arcs. I don't know how Horikoshi's gonna handle it, but last arc of the story, this was something that came out of left field because I just assumed, we're going to do this thing because it's, UA high school. It's 3 years. And so we just wrapped up the first year of Izuku's, story. So I thought the remaining manga was going to last, quite some time there. And it still very well might. I mean, it's not like it's going to end in a year or anything like that. But, we just finished the first year and that was what, like 8 years of serialization or something. So it's like, oh yeah, we got a good 16 years of this left. I didn't think it was going to last that long, but, this is like stopping midway and being like, okay, I know you thought this was going to be sort of like a shonen / slice of life, school life kind of thing. Well, we're hitting the gas pedal on this now, okay. So, I did not talk about last chapter. I did a review of chapter 304. Did not do a video on 305, so let's cover some stuff in 305 before we get to this. Alright? So 305 had some great moments between Izuku and Nana. Nana pretty much just asks Izuku directly, like, can you kill my grandson? Which, that's an awkward conversation right there, but hey, it's a conversation that needs to be had, alright? So Nana's like, look, can you kill Shigaraki Tomura? Like, I'm not asking you, like, from, like, a moral perspective or anything like that. No, I'm literally asking you, like, are you capable of doing that? Like, can you literally, fight my grandson and then pound him into a bloody pulp on the ground? Okay, that would help out a lot of people, right? It's a messed up conversation, right? And Izuku, of course, he goes in. I mean, they give all the previous users of One for All, they give their thoughts on it because they're like realized inside of Izuku, so Daigoro Banjo, he explains, he's like, look, kid, I understand where you're coming from. Obviously, All for One has taken over, Shigaraki's body. Like the whole idea with this is that All Might actually did pound All for One's body into the ground, into almost a bloody pulp. So his real body is completely wrecked. And so that was the whole reason he kind of raised up Tomura and just like, he's basically taking over his body, like possessing him. And so that obviously means like Tomura's free will is basically taking a back seat. But suffice to say, even if you disregard all that, yeah, Tomura is sort of like this beacon of just objective evil in the world, and Nana even kind of puts it like, we see this awesome double-page spread. I think it was a double-page spread, but we saw this awesome panel where Tomura was like standing there like the zombie body he is, and then like these like evil moth wings are like blooming, like he's coming out of his chrysalis or whatever, and he's fully realized as like the perfect being, and Nana's like, if that day were to ever come where he were to realize his complete power, or All for One takes 100% control of him with all of his quirks and everything at his disposal, that would be the dawn of an era which would spell nothing but doom for the planet. For everybody, for hero society, for regular civilians, for the entire planet. And that day simply cannot come. So Izuku, can you please kill my grandson, is essentially where that comes from. Or is it? Okay. So, something else in that last chapter that's important to bring up just as more of a side thing. We got the name of the 6th user, whose name is N, which I believe is just the kanji for smoke. So I don't know if that refers to N's, like, quirk. It maybe has, like, a smoke screen kind of quirk. Remember, when All Might wrote that notebook out and gave it to Izuku and Bakugo to look at, when Bakugo was perusing all of the previous quirks from the ones that All Might was able to gather together. So I'm assuming, you know, everything from the 4th, 5th, and 6th user, and then the 2nd and 3rd were mysterious. Obviously, the 1st user had, well, technically, the 1st user did have 2 quirks. He had the ability to just pass on a quirk, and then All for One gave him the ability to stockpile power, which was the origin of One for All, of course, right? When Bakugo was looking through those previous quirk users, he said that Daigoro's Black Whip, it's just like, that's not really that big of a deal. The danger sense that the 4th user had, he was like, that's not a big deal either. Bakugo said all of these quirks are nothing crazy powerful. So if the 6th user, N, if his quirk was just the ability to, like, shoot out smoke or, like, do a smoke screen or something like that, maybe manipulate the smoke, maybe do illusions kind of thing, I could see, you know, considering the high standards that Bakugo has, I could see Bakugo looking at that quirk and being like, you can't really do anything with that. Meanwhile, Izuku would be like, whoa, that's so cool, you can make smoke, that's really cool, you can use that in battle, you can make smoke screens, you can make your enemies, you know, be confused and attack each other, like Aizen Zanpakuto, before he thought it was the real Zanpakuto, but whatever, and you can make, like, your allies escape, you know, Izuku would go crazy with that quirk. So I'm literally just going off of the dude's name, N, and the kanji for smoke or smoke screen, so it could be a completely different kind of quirk, but that's something important to mention. It gives the impression that pretty much all of the previous users of One for All are like, look, Tomura's pretty much objective evil. You have to kill him. Izuku, he has a rebuttal here that's essentially like... Oh, and they also go into the whole thing of how, like, literally the beginnings of One for All, the reason One for All still exists to this day, and you are the 9th user of it, and the origin of it is to fight against All for One. Like, that is the purpose, that is the core, the kernel of this quirk that has been passed on so many times throughout the generations, is to fight against, you know, the original's brother, to fight against All for One and defeat him. And we thought All Might did that, but man, he is like a cockroach. He just keeps coming back, you know? So they tell him, like, that's the whole function of this quirk. You know, you have to defeat Tomura. And Izuku's response to that is, well, for one thing, when I fought against Tomura, I saw his loneliness. I saw him, you know, as a little kid, like, crying in the corner, probably after he just activated Decay and, like, killed his dog and his entire family, probably in that situation. We see a very dramatic moment. That's the double page spread where we see Izuku still covered in that miasma, the fog of his inner world, but then all the fog kind of, you know, dissipates away, and we see Izuku as a little kid approaching Tomura as a little kid and kind of like, are you gonna be okay? We can be friends and everything. So, you know, it is a very sort of cheesy kind of moment, I guess you could look at it like that. But another way of looking at it, and Izuku says this, he's like, maybe the beginnings of this quirk, when this quirk was first created, it was meant as a hard counter for All for One and nothing else. But ever since then, with all the people that have used this quirk and have fought against villains and have tried to better the world for it, All Might in particular, that, you know, used this quirk for 40 freaking years to literally become the symbol of peace. One for All is meant to save people. At the end of the day, it is not meant to kill, it is meant to save. Even if that's not what it started out as, that's what it is now. And, I mean, the ultimate trump card here from Izuku is like, it's my quirk. I'm kind of the one in the driver's seat right now, you know what I mean? So, I say I'm not going to use it to kill people. I'm gonna save him, alright? And I think Izuku also does throw in a line there that it's like, look, if it really comes down to it, if there's no other feasible way, well, I guess we'll just see when that happens. But I'm not going to just, like, the next time I run into Tomura, I'm not just going to try to kill him and end it. I'm going to try to save him. I'm going to try to do everything in my power to save him in some way, right? And then at the end of the chapter, it's revealed that they were kind of testing Izuku to see what he wanted to do with the power. You know, Nana was kind of testing him. The brother was. Everybody kind of was. But at the end of the day, what they said... I mean, they were testing him, but they weren't like... They weren't lying when they were talking about Tomura. They weren't like, you know, if All for One does control him completely, 100%, and gets complete control of Tomura, that really will be a problem. That will be a massive problem, you know, so you might still very well need to kill him, but at least they gauge, you know, the personality of Izuku, the kind of guy he is. It would have been a little bit awkward if Nana just got up and like, can you kill Tomura Shigaraki, Izuku? And Izuku's immediate response to that, still in the muffled voice, was like, oh yeah, definitely, I can kill him 100%, Nana. I can just BAM! And I just pile of blood all over the place. Yo, don't worry, leave it to me. You know? And then Nana would be like, oh crap, okay, we weren't expecting it. We were expecting him to go on a whole spiel about how killing is wrong and we're heroes, we're supposed to save people. It's like, oh no, he's going downtown. This fist is gonna, you know, like, okay, so that's not the way it went. And Izuku wants to save him. Now look, you can have your own perspective on that. You know, because I know that's a divisive thing right there. It's just like, oh, no way. No way. I think a lot of people, if they were given One for All, if they were given the driver's seat for this instead of Izuku, they might have told Nana right to her face. Or like, all the members, like, you should really not use it to kill. It's like, oh, no. No, did you see all the crap he just did? I mean, granted, yeah, he's being possessed by his master and everything. This is kind of taking a turn for the weird, but, nah, he needs to die, like, now, and I'm gonna do it, all right? So don't worry about it. It's like, okay, well, you're the one that has it. He's like, damn straight. You know, okay. All Might's sitting there, like the little flaming version of All Might's there, like, I don't know, Izuku, maybe you should calm down. No! He killed Midnight. You know, it's going down. All right, so, yeah, you could have that perspective, but that's not what Izuku's about. You know, Izuku's never been about that, right? And it's like, if it comes down to it, we'll see where it goes. Izuku's, I think, not an idiot in that regard. I don't think that he's, like, I think he is being a little bit naive, but more than anything, considering right now where hero society is, it's kind of at its lowest point, Izuku, I think, really just wants to be that beacon for the world, and, like, exemplify what a hero is, because that's what he grew up with and everything, looking up to All Might. He's like, you know, this is what needs to be done. I need to be the person that kind of show the world what a hero really is. And I don't know if I can accomplish that if I just fight against Tomura and just leave him a giant blood stain on the ground. You know, there has to be a way I can do this, right? Side note to that, a lot of people have been throwing this out there, and ever since the introduction of Eri, this is kind of like the magic, you know, solution to every problem. But it's like, what if Eri just uses her rewind quirk to turn Tomura back into a little kid, and then everything will be hunky-dory? You know, Tomura won't be psychologically screwed with, and he'll just go back in time. Like, reset button, kind of like Pride in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, though, right? Just reset button, here we go. You don't have to worry about him anymore, right? He gets a second chance at life, and this time he's not completely, you know, unstable and all that stuff. All the bad stuff that happened to him just got taken away magically, you know, because of Eri's rewind. I mean, you could throw that out there at a lot of opportunities. I'm not really sure how that would go, but considering Eri's quirk does exist, I felt like I should mention it. So, at the end of the last chapter, we got a scene where it was the brother, after testing Izuku, turns over to the second and third users, respectively, the ones that are still in timeout against the wall. And they're like, okay, come on, you two. Time to play nice. Time to help out Izuku here. He's going to need your power. And so the end of the last chapter was just those two, the second and third users, I guess, about to turn around and you know, address Izuku directly. Now, the way that the brother spoke about that, the way that he was kind of treating them like they were in timeout. He was just like, okay, now, I know you did some bad things, but time to play nice with the rest of the class and tell Izuku what your quirks are. That gave me the idea, like, either it didn't really seem like the brother hated them or anything. It didn't seem like the brother was like, I'm very disappointed in the way you two used One for All, so you just sit in the corner and you don't talk to Izuku. It didn't seem like that. It seemed like the second and third users, like, this was their active choice. This was their choice to not address Izuku. This was their choice to have their backs to him and just stare at the wall and not say anything. And then now that the brother, who is like the origin of One for All, maybe the brother sort of has a little bit of control over them, considering he's the beginning of all this. Maybe it's like, okay, look, maybe it might be a thing where they're filled with guilt or regret or something that happened to them while they had One For All, the way that they utilized it, considering they were the first people to get it passed on to. Keep in mind, I mean, the second user of One For All, the dude that we assume has the Bakugo hair, that was the one that All For One's brother passed it on to directly. So what's the relationship between those two? Those two might have known each other. They might have been friends or something. Who knows? And once again, as I said last time, the second and third users might have only had the power for a few weeks, a few months before they passed it on to each other. And then eventually the fourth user got it, had it for 18 years. You know, but yeah, it's like they might have done something that they feel guilt for, so they don't want to address this to Izuku. They don't even want to talk to the other ones. They feel like, oh man, all the other users of One For All were like exemplary heroes and they did their best, and we know in our heart of hearts like we didn't, or we screwed up somehow. But they addressed Izuku at the end of the last chapter. We just didn't get to see that. So with this chapter, chapter 306, it is really basically, I mean, it says the final act begins, so you could say this is the beginning of the last arc. I guess it is the beginning, like the first chapter of the last arc, or the second. It's the last chapter of the last arc. It kind of is the intermediary point, the nexus where everything kind of blends together, where we end out this and then we have a time skip a little bit into the future. All right, so that's how that goes, right? So just really quick, you know, kind of cliff note version, because I want to get to the part with Izuku, and the rest of this is a really good chapter, but I'm just going to give you the quick cliff notes here. So Hawks and Best Jeanist show up at the hospital. They ask about One For All because the media is picking up on it now. Everyone's wondering, like, what the hell is One For All? We know All For One. What's this One For All? Why does he want it? What is this? Is it a quirk? Is it a person? All Might, you know, kind of like points, gestures over to Jeanist and Hawks and is like, all right, tell you what, let's get a private room and make sure no one's listening, and I'll tell you everything. I'll tell you everything about the quirk. I'll tell you everything about how it works and what happened with Izuku and why I passed it on to him. I'll tell you everything I know. So Hawks and Jeanist are going to be in on this loop here. On top of that, we have a press conference that features Hawks and Endeavor a few days later from this. And of course, the media, this has been building up for a while here. As soon as they were ready enough to get out of the hospital, they're like, okay, you need to answer for a lot of questions. And they are completely candid with all of the reporters. I imagine they were just sitting in this room for probably hours, and the reporters were just like, is this true? Is this true? What about this? Does that mean this? Does that mean that? And Endeavor and Hawks, they tell them everything. Endeavor is just like, yes, everything that Dabi said is true. I had a son, Toya. I pushed him a little bit too hard and things, and I wanted to surpass All Might. I was an abusive husband. I was an abusive father. He just tells them everything. Hawks is completely candid. He's like, yeah, everything about my father is true. There was a few things that were false information that were spread, and he clarifies that a little bit. But he's like, yes, the truth about my father, that's 100% true. I don't think the thing with Hawks' father should really be that big of a deal. You know, he wasn't like a super villain or anything like that. He was a really shitty dad, right? And he was a criminal, right? So I don't think that should hurt Hawks' reputation that much. He was a little kid when, you know, he got taken away from his parents and everything like that, from his dad, you know, so I don't think that should matter, you know. But the big thing is, like, you killed a fleeing villain. There was this villain twice, Jean, and you apparently killed him, you know, in cold blood, like while he was fleeing. You know, what's up with that, Hawks? And Hawks, once again, comes out to all of the newspaper reporters and everything, and he's like, look, I know that's not how heroes are supposed to operate. I determined that his quirk, double, or replicate, his ability to replicate everything, I thought that was going to be the biggest threat that villains had, and I'm sure Hawks went into extensive detail with the reporters and everything. Like just imagine it. Like, did you see those Nomu out there? Yeah, this one dude had the ability to make an army of those. Take one Nomu, he can make hundreds. He could multiply Higanto Makia. He could multiply the other members of the League of Villains. He could multiply himself. How'd you feel about that? If there were 100 Dabis and 100 Nomus running around out there. You know, so that's his perspective, and I'm assuming he doesn't, like, we don't see that in the chapter of him explaining his rationale. But he did say, like, I felt like it was a matter of, like, I had to kill him at that one point. That's the reason I did it. I'm assuming he told the reporters about that. And there's not really a lot of follow-up questions regarding that, so I'm not really sure. We might see more of that expanded on there, of how society reacts to the, you know, the murder of Jean. But anyway, Then we get to a reporter that actually had she had her mother injured in the attack. And so, she's like, you can't just be up there, you're admitting to everything, but you're just like admitting to everything and saying you're sorry. Like, that's not going to get you off the hook. Like, the point of the matter here is everybody is pissed. Everybody is pissed. Everybody is anxious. Everybody is nervous. Everybody is scared. Everybody is freaking terrified right now from what happened. Basically, I imagine a lot of people don't even know, what they like being able to hear something that a hero says. That's not going to matter. It's like we want this to be taken care of. We want like all these prisons got broken out of. We got a freaking ultimate supervillain god basically on our hands here. We want all this stuff taken care of as fast as possible, right? This is terrifying to live in this country, in this state, right? So Endeavor basically steps out and he does the same thing he kind of did at the Billboard chart announcement, where he's like, basically like, I've told you everything. At this point, there's really nothing I can say to you beyond that'll make you like, there's no magic words I can say that'll put you all at ease. So just watch me, please. I beg of you. I messed up multiple times before this in many different ways, but we're still heroes. We are still here. And a lot of people in the crowd are probably just like, yeah, whatever, sure. That's what you said last time. But he's like, no, watch me. And then he activates his Hell Flame to make the mask of fire on his face in front of everybody. And that went about as well as it was gonna. Yeah, that went about as well as that. We also get that they asked him about One for All. They asked Endeavor about it, and Endeavor simply responded with, I don't know, which Endeavor probably wouldn't know that much about it anyway. He doesn't know the full story of how it all works and everything, so that would make sense at least. He's like, yeah, I don't know. I know that term, One for All. The villain said that. I don't know what that means, okay? So now, though, we get to the, and also UA and a lot of other locations that are like government hero facilities are going to be basically high-tech shelters for a lot of people. So to limit the range of villain activity, they're basically having citizens now live in like the UA grounds or other places. And there was even some reporters that were like, UA's been broken into a few times by now, right? So that's not even what point of that is even going to be helpful? And Best Genus is like, it's the best we got, pretty much. It's like, just we're basically flying blind here, so we'll see where it goes, right? We also get brief scenes of Aizawa and Mirko and, all the heroes that have been beaten up in the battle. Mirko is still alive. It looks like she's, like, fastening on, like, a prosthetic arm or maybe, like, a robot arm. Aizawa's missing an eye. That's going to be a problem with his quirk. Last time we saw bandages over his face, we didn't know if he lost an eye, but no, he straight up lost an eye. So he has a cool little eye patch now there. Aizawa, with the level of prosthetic technology they have in My Hero Academia, I'm sure they can make like a cool prosthetic leg for Aizawa, and that'll be pretty cool. So he can still be a hero. He still has mobility and everything, like an automail leg or whatever. But the loss of the eye, that's going to be a problem. So his erasure quirk is now cut down by half of visual range. So that's going to be a problem. But they're still alive, at least. They're still okay. Then we get the last scene of the chapter where we deal with Izuku. So Izuku wakes up from his coma. I'm assuming the majority of the reason he was in the coma to begin with was because he was chatting with One for All inside of himself. And after the conversation was over, I guess after the second and third users told him about their quirks and what their stories were, Izuku wakes back up. He gives out letters. He writes letters personally to every single member of the class of 1A. He writes letters to Uraraka and everybody, and he leaves them at everybody's door. And Izuku leaves. He leaves UA, and he goes out to, well, it's not an unknown location. They don't say where it is, but if it's like any basis on like the environment he's standing on, we know where this is. So just give me a second for that. But he leaves. Uraraka reads the letter, and she's crying, and she's like, that dummy. And it's like, oh, you two are meant for each other. But he writes the letter to everybody. That's dedication for Izuku. Izuku literally sat down at his desk, took out a pen, and wrote out, letters to everybody in 1A. Everybody, personally. He could have just wrote a generic letter and then copied it 20 times. But no, Izuku, he wrote it from the heart, right? And so he writes a letter to everybody. They all read about it. And in the letter, it explains, this is One for All. This is my quirk. All Might passed it on. He explains this all. So it seems like happening pretty soon. And Hawks also says this at the early part of the chapter. Like, the society at large is probably going to find out what One for All is. they're gonna find out what it is. They're gonna find out, how it works and everything eventually. And there's really no stopping that. So we're just gonna see where this train goes, right? We're gonna see how this works. They say, wait. So All Might had a power that he got from other people, and he could pass it on to anybody. And he chose some random nerd from UA? What the hell, So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of talk on the internet message boards in the world of My Hero Academia. Once they figure out what One For All is, they're probably going to be like, so he gives it to this kid, Why didn't he give it to this person or this person, right? Why didn't they try to, turn like One For All into like Iron Man or somebody, have giant gun turrets attached to him to whoever used One For All? That would be cool. Like, there would be a lot of discussions on that, of course. So, Izuku leaves UA, and the last scene of the chapter is a little bit of a time skip into April now, where we see Izuku in a new city, standing on top of a building, and in the distance, in the skyscrapers, amidst the skyscrapers of this new city, we see a bunch of, like, explosions, and some of the skyscrapers, some of the buildings are falling down, a villain is attacking in the distance, and Izuku's kind of up there on the top of this one skyscraper, kind of like, that's a pretty big villain. And we don't really see his full face, but it's covered by like he kind of like has like a Aizawa's scarf now, or like Shinso's scarf kind of thing. So he has maybe it's Gran Torino's, I don't know. He has like the scarf on, and he's just like, pretty big villain is attacking. All right, I guess it's time to get going. He just seems very dejected, very removed, very stoic, right? So, a few things about this scene. For one thing, it looks amazing. I can't wait to get this, like, laminated and made into a poster. It looks incredible. Another thing is, Izuku is still wearing the tattered clothing that he wore during the battle with Tomura and All For One. Okay, so in the battle, like, his arms and his legs, like that, his outfit got completely shredded, right? So he's wearing like an undershirt underneath it, but he hasn't fixed his hero outfit. It's still all tattered and ripped up. It doesn't have sleeves because his arms got ripped apart, so it's just like a tattered, rippled vest. And then he has like the scarf of like Gran Torino or somebody, and then his like mask. He was about to put his mask on right before he jumped in to save everybody. His mask is all tattered too. And it gives him a really badass look. It gives him like a grungy Batman kind of look a little bit, because he's like, I'm not getting a new hero outfit until everything's taken care of. This is my war outfit. This is what I'm going to wear as a hero until I make things right in the world that need to be righted. You know what I mean? So he has really cool outfit, and the place he's standing, it seems like he is standing on top of the Chrysler Building in New York City, because he's standing on an eagle, and everybody out there that's, of course, seen Stuart Little 2, knows that this eagle is one of the 8 eagles that's on the edges of the corners of the Chrysler Building in New York City, in Manhattan, okay? It looks like that. Horikoshi is one for detail, and we've talked about how there's other hero nations, of course. The United States exists. That's where, All Might went to go train with David Shield for years in California and everything. Izuku seems like he's in New York City right now. Went to a new country to learn about different kinds of hero activities, or maybe just do the same thing with All Might. Nana and Gran Torino were kind of like, right after Nana died, Gran Torino was like, you need to cross the ocean. You need to get the hell out of Japan, because All For One is here. He has pretty much eyes and ears everywhere in every city in this country. You need to get the hell out of here, and you need to go in somewhere where he can't reach you. So go to the U.S., train there, and then come back. And so All Might was like, yes, I'm going to train in the U.S., and I'm going to come back with enough strength to save everyone with all of my might, okay? So it would make sense that Izuku would do this too. And considering the state in Japan, I could see maybe even I would actually like to see a lot of the class of 1A and 1B as well. I guess 2A and 2B now, considering they're sophomores, second years. I'm assuming they would go and travel and go to other places too, like, see what European hero societies are like, or, in Asia, other parts of Asia, like China or whatever. Like, that would be really cool, to see those different areas of the world, right? All For One is really strong, he's really powerful, but is he the strongest supervillain in the entire world? That's a question. I mean, he did say that thing like, I'm going to be a demon lord, which was pretty edgy. But it's like, is he the strongest? Is he the only one in the world that would have a quirk to amass other quirks? Is he the only one, the only person? It's a pretty big world out there. It's got billions and billions of people. So there might be another supervillain somewhere out there in the world that might have a quirk very similar to One for All. I mean, All for One. And there might be a supervillain out there that has a different quirk, but might even be stronger than All for One. Who knows? It's a pretty damn big world, right? And, you know, All for One pretty much had Japan locked down. He was basically like the mafia boss of all of Japan, but you know, I want to see the U.S. now. I want to see what's going on in the United States and like who all like is there a league of villains in the U.S.? I'm assuming there probably is going to be some kind of villain organization and heroes civilization, like how that all works. How did what happened in Japan? Because hero society was like racked to the core in Japan. Did that affect other nations? Did that affect the U.S.? Is the U.S. also in turmoil right now, considering you know, the state of Japan and what happened there? Are they doubting their heroes, or is it like a separate thing? I don't know. But given the fact that, yes, Izuku is standing on the Chrysler Building, he's in the middle of New York City in Manhattan, we'll see where this goes, right? I'm assuming he didn't just go there with no plan. It's just like, I'm just gonna go to the U.S. now. I'm sure All Might, and I'm sure a lot of other people that are still around, they had connections in the U.S. All Might, definitely. You know, Izuku might meet Dave. Dave might just be, I know we met Dave in the movie, but there might be a different variation of Dave. You know, there might be like, okay, that's the movie version of Dave. This is the manga version, the canon version, so change some stuff around with his character. He might meet Melissa, who knows? You know, Melissa might be in this. You know, they lived in California, but I think that, you know, it's the U.S. You could have everything. So the connections all over the place, right? You know, All Might had, you know, bases, I'm sure, all over the U.S., and he has contacts everywhere. So I'm sure Izuku went to the U.S. Maybe he went with somebody. Maybe All Might went with him. Toshinori went with him, and then there's going to be some heroes that All Might knew from his past that are going to connect. You know, he's going to connect with Izuku there, and then it's just like, okay, you guys can train. All right, so this might be a thing where Izuku just trains in New York City, or it could be he goes to other places and trains. I don't know. I would actually, you know what's something I'm actually kind of interested in? I kind of would really want to see this. I don't know how this would work with copyright or whatever. I don't know. I would love there to be, like, Marvel and DC superheroes that Izuku meets in the U.S. Like, All Might is essentially like Superman, right? I mean, he pretty much is. Even the colors are like, he's Superman, right? I want to see Izuku, like, jump off the Chrysler Building. He'll survive. I mean, jump off to go and fight, not just jump off the freaking Chrysler Building, but jump off the Chrysler Building, activate Full Cow, use float. I'm sure he got up there somehow. I'm sure he's mastered Nana's, you know, quirk now. So he's going to use float and, like, travel with Black Whip or whatever over to fight against the giant villain that's attacking. And then, like, the My Hero Academia version of Spider-Man shows up. It's like, oh, you got a quirk like that too. Now, I know. We got Izuku with Black Whip, and then we got Sero with the tape. That's kind of like Spider-Man. There's other quirks out there that can extend things and grab things, but I want, like, the version of Spider-Man, right? You know, it's just like, except you can't actually call him Spider-Man. You can't actually draw him the same, because that's copyrighted, obviously. But it could be like in the Venture Brothers, where it's like, I'm the Brown Widow, you know? Or it could be like, I'm the Orb Weaver, you know? Like, you could have, like, you know, My Hero version of Spider-Man. You could have a Batman, even though Aizawa is kind of like Batman, kind of, you know, but you could have, like, I kind of want to see that, a My Hero version of Green Lantern, you know, and it's like, they don't have to have, like, truly, like, they don't actually have to have, like, the Green Lantern powers, like, from space or whatever. It could just be a hero that dresses very similar to the Green Lantern. It's like, I'm the Red Beacon. I'm like, okay, you're the Red Beacon, whatever. And you could control holograms or something, or solid mass projections, which is basically what, you know, they have as the Green Lanterns, whatever. My point is, I kind of want to see that shit, you know? I mean, some dollar stores, some copyright-free versions of these characters. I think Horikoshi, the way he draws them, could make them look pretty damn cool, right? Okay. So, Izuku's in the Big Apple. He's gonna get some pizza. Oh! This is gonna sound really stupid, really goofy, but Horikoshi could do this. He's the author. He's the mangaka that could do this. Izuku's gonna meet the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Didn't think I was gonna go in that direction, did ya? Nah. This could happen. And it doesn't even need to happen in, like, the way... It could literally just be a group. Like, let's say there are 4 brothers that are all heroes that have the exact same quirk, and the quirk is turtle. Freaking Spinner has the gecko quirk. You got Suyu that has the frog quirk. That's just animal. That's just all it is. The quirk is animal. That's it. So don't tell me there can't be a turtle quirk. All right? There's 4 brothers that were all born. They're all biologically related, so they all ended up with the same quirk, and they all are turtle humans. And they're ninjas. And they're teenagers. And they're mutants, kind of. Not really, but... Teenage quirky Ninja Turtles, teenage quirky Ninja Turtles, teenage quirky Ninja Turtles, heroes in a half shell, turtle power. I think, wasn't it in Europe? They weren't the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they were the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, because ninja was, like, too, like, offensive or too violent or something. I don't know. At any rate, Izuku's gonna meet Spider-Man, Green Lantern, Batman, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So that's my thoughts on what's going to happen next in the chapter of My Hero Academia. We'll just wait to see where this goes. Oh, and what's going to happen, that's another thing too. How are we going to balance this? Because under normal circumstances, you could just focus on the main character in the US, but I want to see what happens to Uraraka and Bakugo and everyone else and Todoroki and everybody over in Japan. So we could literally, the way that Horikoshi could do this is he could literally have some chapters where we see Izuku training in New York, and then we cut over to a few chapters with the rest of Class 1A, and now that Izuku's not there anymore, maybe Shinso will take Izuku's place as the new member of Class 1A. That'll probably have that. That'll actually be perfect if that happens, so I could see that going down now. But anyway, now we could focus on, like, you know, I don't know, Shoji. We don't know much about Shoji. We could focus about Shoji, maybe some other characters to flesh them out while Izuku was training abroad. So we cut away for Izuku for like 10 chapters to see what they're doing, cut back to him for a little bit to get caught up on that, then we cut back over again. I mean, it would be a little bit of a balancing act, but we can't just focus on nothing but Izuku in the US, and we can't focus on nothing but 1A in Japan. We have to have this weird balancing act now, and I don't know how Horikoshi's going to do it, but I have faith that this is going to work good. So, yeah. We'll see where it goes from here. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking, signing out. Final arc, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go. Teenage Mutant, I'm Teenage Quirky Ninja Turtles.